If you lived in Colonial Times, pages 16 to 23. Did children have to worry about table manners? When you sit down to eat with your family, you are allowed to talk. If you lived in colonial days, you had to keep quiet. You could not even sit down. You had to stand at the table all through the meal. When supper was good, you could not say so. When supper was bad, you could not say so either. You could not say a word at the table. Speak not was a rule to remember. There were many rules to remember. Sing not, hum not, wriggle not was one rule. Has your mother ever said to you, "Don't take such big bites. Don't make so much noise when you chew"? There were the same rules in colonial days. All the rules were printed in a book of manners, and you had to learn them all. The book of manners said, "Stuff not thy mouth to fill thy cheeks. Make not a noise with thy tongue, lips, or breath, in thy eating or drinking." It was good manners to eat with your fingers. There were spoons, but there were no forks until colonial days. You used the same knife to cut your meat and to work with wood. In many homes, one big pot was put on the table. Everyone put his spoon or his fingers into the pot to take out their food. Your plate was a wooden board called a trencher. You shared your trencher with a sister or brother. You didn't have your own trencher. That would be too fancy. Did children go to school? Some did, some didn't. The first school the boys and girls went to in colonial days was called a dame school. The teacher was a woman and the children came to her house. In dame school, children learned to read and write. Did they have school books? Older children used a book called the New England Primer. Children in dame school used a special kind of school book called a horn book. It was not a real book with pages to turn. It was a piece of wood with a printed page on each side of it. The horn book got its name from the thin sheet of horn that covered the page. You could see right through the horn. As soon as the children learned to read and write everything that was on the horn book, they were finished with dame school. Who learned more, girls or boys? After dame school, boys went on to another school to learn more. Girls stayed home. Most people thought reading and writing were enough for girls to know. They thought it was more important for girls to know how to spin and cook and clean house. But some people said girls are as clever as boys. Why can't they learn too? So they taught their daughters at home. Most boys had to go to school. The law said so. The law said every town with 50 families must build a school for boys. But some towns did not have enough money to build a school. What were the schools like? The law did not say schools had to be comfortable, and most of them weren't. They were hard benches to sit on. The school had only one room, which was freezing cold in the winter. The only heat came from the fireplace. Every boy had to bring firewood for the fire. If he forgot, he had to sit far away from the fire. He had to sit in the coldest part of the room. The family of every boy who went to school had to pay the schoolmaster. Often he was paid in corn or other food. Sometimes the schoolmaster had more food than he could eat. That happened once to a schoolmaster in the town of Salem. The schoolmaster had too much corn, so he made one of the boys stand near an open window. When the boy saw someone walking by, he tried to trade the extra corn for something the schoolmaster could use. There were no blackboards and no maps in colonial schools. There were no pencils either. Boys wrote with a lump of lead, or they wrote with a goose quill pen dipped in homemade ink. Paper was hard to get and cost a lot. Most boys wrote on birch bark. They could always get more in the woods. All they had to do was peel the bark off the birch trees. Boys spent a lot of time learning to have nice handwriting. If they wrote their words clear and small, no one cared how the words were spelled. People spelled the same words in different ways. One schoolmaster put a notice in the paper to say that he taught writing and spelling. They spelled writing and spelling wrong. The New England Primer was the only school book. It had many prayers. It had many questions and answers about God. And there were rhymes for each letter of the alphabet. For the letter D, the boys learned, "A dog will bite a thief at night." As soon as the boys knew everything in the New England Primer, they could go to another school to learn more. Some boys were ready for college when they were only 11 years old. A few boys with rich fathers went to college in England, but most boys stopped going to school. They went to work instead. We are done with today's lesson.